Coming up on That's a Great Point.
Like the word manifest has a quote unquote woo woo context, right? Like you hear manifest and you're like, whatever. But Think and Grow Rich, you're like, yeah. Or like law of attraction, even sometimes people are like, okay, tell me more. But manifestation, sometimes it's just like hard close. It sounds like bullshit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's
Well,
interesting.
of course. I mean, as like a lifelong skeptic myself,
Yeah.
um, I used to think of it as, I think, the conventional way of thinking about it. Like you sit down, you close your eyes, and you think a thing, and then boom, it happens. And that is not how that works, right? It's thinking the thing and then doing the things and taking the action while thinking the things over and over. Wouldn't you know it, the universe starts to meet you.
Hey there. On today's episode, we are discussing manifestation. Is manifesting just a bunch of new age hippie woo-woo bullshit, or is it a great way to get more of what we want out of life? When is manifesting actually hurting our well-being? How do you even start setting up a manifestation practice? Today's conversation was inspired by Michelle's new course on Udemy titled The Art of Manifestation, Aligning with Your True Self. Link to that in the show description. If you find our content helpful, share it with somebody you love. Thanks for playing along. Enjoy. Welcome to That's a Great Point, the attitude adjustment for your soul, where co-hosts Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart discuss deep topics around a life well lived. Let's start the show. Hot diggity dog, I think we got it now.
I think we got it.
With bells on.
That's the song?
No. You know, you show up with bells on. I'll be there with bells on. Then we say that all the time. It might just be my family thing.
I promise you, I've heard it over here too. over yonder.
I ain't never heard that afore.
Weird phrases. I need to turn up my volume. I'm like, why?
What does this show up with bells on thing mean? Because I have like an image of a cat walking in with like tinkling bells hanging off of his collar.
I think it just means you'll show up engaged and happy and ready to go. I mean, I've never really unpacked it. I take it to mean like, I'll be there with bells on. I'm excited. Woo!
Yeah, I'll be there enthusiastically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never had to unpack, I'll be there with bells on.
Yeah, I never really thought about it.
But that's it.
This is one of them damn Yankee phrases.
Yankee.
Yep.
Well, now I'm picturing like the Spurs with the jingle jangle. They kind of make a bell sound.
Spurs with jingle jangles?
I wonder where that comes from, though.
You know what I mean? It's like, what is the bell reference? Because like, what makes bell sounds when you show up? I mean, nobody brings bells places. That doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
I don't know. I think they were more common back in the day, though.
The phrase, be there with bells on, I'm reading notes, originates from the practice of 18th century American wagoners who would attach bells to their horses' collars, signifying pride in arriving at a destination without incident. Essentially, with bells on meant arriving safely and on time, as losing the bells could happen if a wagon got stuck and needed help, making it a symbol of a successful journey.
So it's not about enthusiasm. It's about showing up successfully and on time.
And with pride. Look, we learning something here today. I like it.
I like it too.
Nice.
I'm gonna learn something today when we start talking about manifesting. I'm gonna learn something too.
I'll learn you something.
I'll learn you something.
Yeah.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Reminded me of Beavis and Butthead. Testes. 1, 2, 3.
TP for the bunghole. I will never forget it. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
I say it at home once in a blue moon, and my kids don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure that my kids continue to don't know what that means.
TP for the bunghole?
Like, I'll explain it to him. I don't want him to watch it.
No, it's
I feel like Beavis and Butthead was the start of the decline of our nation.
civilization. Oh, that's funny.
Maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know. Was it Beavis and Butthead, or was it Ren and Stimpy that really started like the downhill decline
Wow.
of our intelligence?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't watch it. I mean, I couldn't watch either of them more than like a snippet at a time. It's painful.
Oh, see, that's the thing is I used to love watching them back then. Now I've watched it. I went back and tried to watch them again fairly recently. I'm like, oh my God, no wonder I was such a shithead. Um, it's bad. It's so bad. It's dumb. God damn. I remember hearing there was a story about how at that particular time period, the early '90s, mid '90s, uh, with the most successful selling shirt in the United States was something about dumb and proud of it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but something about like we're absolutely failing and yay. And the most successful shirt in Japan was something around discipline and being a winner. And if you look at the economies of the two nations in that time period, like Japan absolutely took off.
Mm.
And the American population just seems to be getting dumber and dumber. Hell, it wasn't too long after that SpongeBob showed up. Like, oh my God, really? No comment, huh?
There's no shortage of distractions and waste. This is the land of opportunity, and that goes in every direction. Opportunity to improve and grow and climb, the income tax brackets
Hmm.
and load up on knowledge. And then there's of course ways to completely devolve,
But
right? And regress.
evolve,
You can
melt
have
your brain.
devolve and regress. Of course. Yeah, there's no shortage. It's there's plenty of everything.
Yeah, yeah. Feel like walking around going, grrr.
That is a sound effect. That's a horn. That sounds like a horn.
A horn.
It
Well,
did
I am
sound it did sound
horn E.
like a boat horn.
Yeah.
I mean, it was no auga, but
No.
you know.
Hmm. Hmm. Man, oh man. Which one of y'all wants to take it away?
Ooh, you want to talk about manifestation today?
Sure.
Or you want to talk about something else today?
No, I prepared for manifestation. Oh, you could tell I was sick over the weekend and a massive fever Friday night. I've been sneezing ever since. Seriously large amounts of indigestion and heartburn, and it's been a rough weekend. I, Tanya wasn't able to sleep with me last night because I was snoring so bad. I was so stopped up. Like I haven't stopped sneezing in days now, and they always come in like fours and fives at the very least. Um, so I'm probably not going to be able to English very well today. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about manifestation.
Let's do
Stuff that's
it.
going around is no joke.
Yeah, well, yeah, I
out.
mentioned it last week on the when we were talking about how the weather just keeps going back and forth between 80 degrees and sub freezing, 80 degrees sub freezing, and how many people are getting sick, how much the flu's going around. And I think me saying that out loud manifested that sickness in me. So here we go.
Here we go. Be careful what you wish for. Is that what that is? Just like a little one of those, or be careful what you put into the universe.
I think so. I think so.
I think manifestation is a slippery slope sometimes because I think we can super attach to like, oh, I don't want to put that out there because it's going to come true, and it's like that's fear based, right?
Mhm.
And then there's like I can believe it with conviction and it's for sure going to happen, but then no effort is put out, and that's kind of bullshit. And then there's like, how about if I do the work, get myself in alignment, get clarity, and then work towards something like. Sometimes I think manifestation is nothing more than doing the work. And that's it. Like, it's just do the work. And then stuff falls into place. You get what you give, kind of a thing. You know, where I don't align with manifestation is testing the universe. I'm going to see
Mm.
if I can manifest this thing just for shits and giggles, as opposed to like have clarity and intention and like, what am I actually striving for here? And why does it matter?
Well,
Hmm.
the first that you said you don't align with just sounds like taunting. It sounds like not taking it seriously.
It feels like a waste of time to me. Like if I really want to like get down to it, it's like, why would I try and manifest something just to prove that I can? I mean, I get it. I guess some people maybe want the trial run, but I'm like, why would I waste my time trying to manifest something that I don't even care about? I can start small with things that I do care about. You know what I mean?
What would you consider the definition of manifesting?
Ooh, I've never really looked it up. I think it's creating creating with clarity, like actually bringing something into fruition that you put a strong desire and effort toward. Some people would maybe disagree with me, though. Some people maybe think there is no effort necessarily required other than to um, really, believe it with conviction, which is maybe not fair, but sometimes that's how it feels to me when people talk about it. It's like, well, you get what you give. So all you got to do is put it out there, you know? And I think you can be way more focused and like drilled in with it. And then it's like you're birthing something into the world, or you're calling something to you that already exists within the world. How about you? How would you define it?
Well, I had to look it up because this is not something that I've ever done any study in whatsoever. I thought until I started looking it up, then I realized that the vast majority of the work that I've done is work in manifesting. It was just never called as such. Specifically, like the Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich, the laws of success, it's Napoleon Hill is what the mind can conceive and believe the mind can achieve. So let me read this to you. I looked it up. I thought this was hilarious. This is Psychology Today. What is manifesting? Manifesting is the idea that through the power of belief, we can effectively think a goal into becoming reality. It's a form of magical thinking, in quotes, or the need to believe that one's hopes and desires can have an effect on how the world turns. Right. So that's kind of how I came into it at first, thinking, oh, wow, this is just a bunch of woo woo bullshit. Until I started to read more into it and started to realize that I've been manifesting my whole life. Just didn't even know it. Um, Later on, especially whenever I first hired my first coach, he had me do an exercise to where I wrote out all my goals, put it all on paper, and then I never looked at it again until fairly recently. And I realized out of 30 goals on this sheet, I'd managed to get them all except for one. The only one that I haven't got yet is having owning my own sauna at my house. But yet, if I really look at it, summertime, the shop that I have, this metal shop, it turns into a sauna. So I think I might have got that one too.
Just by default, by accident.
Yeah.
How about you, Alina? How would you define it?
Into bringing something into being, into the mind's eye, and into the body. It doesn't always come through the way that one may originally ask. It doesn't, but that's how it comes through. On the point that Lee just said, I think what I hear the conversation about, it is perceived as woo-woo, and yet we're learning more and more about the connection and the science of manifestation. And we're learning more and more about the brain and understanding more about it. As far as goals, I mean, there's a study that was done that shows that 42% people are 42% more likely to execute on their goals when they have written them down. So,
Hmm.
so there's that. We know in like early childhood learning or in adult learning when we add senses, multiple senses, we infuse them into our learning, and it's more experiential. We think, we write, we smell, we learn faster. And in a similar sense, when we say it, when we think it, when we visualize it, when we write it down, the more of the senses we can involve, the more we are turning our attention, and we are now looking, it might be subconsciously, we are now looking in the direction that we set our intention to.
Yeah, I think it's funny how words, like the word manifest has a quote unquote woo woo context, right? Like you hear manifest and you're like, whatever. But Think and Grow Rich, you're like, yeah. Or like law of attraction, even sometimes people are like, okay, tell me more. But manifestation, sometimes it's just like hard close. It sounds like bullshit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's
Well,
interesting.
of course. I mean, as like a lifelong skeptic myself,
Yeah.
um, I used to think of it as, I think, the conventional way of thinking about it. Like you sit down, you close your eyes, and you think a thing, and then boom, it happens. And that is not how that works, right? It's thinking the thing and then doing the things, and taking the action while thinking the things over and over. Wouldn't you know it, the universe starts to meet you.
Yeah. And I think it's a slippery slope because I think there's like, you can have a really strong desire to manifest something and you can think about it all the time. But if you don't actually believe it's possible, it's one of those good luck moments. And sometimes we have blocks in the way to that like we have to look at before we can actually like we can believe it, like have that desire, not even believe it, have the desire that we want it with conviction and we know like it's a must. And then there can also be a part of us that's like, but I don't actually believe either I can do it, I deserve it, I'm worthy of it. I'm right. Like there's a whole bunch of layers there. And so if that's in the way, the manifestation, like you can't just think it into fruition. It doesn't work that way. So that's what I mean when I say like there's the layers of even just the work to be done. Sometimes it doesn't start with like you might have the clarity. This is what is I'm going to make happen. But you can say those words and if they don't vibrationally align with your like soul, like with your heart, like with what you truly believe, to actually make that happen is like one block after another. And so then I find it really ironic that I think of manifestation, I often think of abundance. But if you're going for that manifestation and that abundance and it's not working, it very quickly sets you into scarcity mindset, which makes it even more hard to manifest. And so it's like this really interesting, intricate, layered process of, I mean, really healing is the way I see it.
There's an empowerment aspect when as I'm that's what's downloading, if you will, or manifesting, showing up. Showing up. As you talk about it, there's an empowerment because it's a disempowered stance. An example of disempowered stance would be what you just described, right? Of like, I'm thinking it and I'm thinking it and I'm wishing it and it still hasn't happened. Why hasn't it happened? This sucks. Maybe I suck. And an empowered stance is, in my heart, I want it. I want it. There's a conviction. There's a deep conviction. I want it and it's happening. I'm on my way. And then doing things that correspond with being on your way. And that's an empowered stance.
Yeah, well, both of y'all have hinted hinted very much so at what's going on in the subconscious. Like if we don't believe that we can actually have what it is that we're dreaming of, subconsciously we'll put in barriers and blocks that keep it from becoming real.
Mm-hmm.
So that's biggest piece of manifesting is making sure that we can believe that it can be real. That's going right back to the Napoleon Hill saying, what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. We have to believe it thoroughly first. If we don't believe that we can make $1 million in a year, like deep down, don't believe it or don't feel like we're worthy of making $1 million a year or feel like we're bad people because we've made $1 million in a year, then we won't allow ourselves to even do what's necessary to do it. So you got to believe it on such a strong level that it becomes real. And that's the biggest piece of it at first, is the vision the thing so clearly that it becomes real in your mind, and you're far more likely to get there. And I did that with my first business, running that mechanic shop. My goal, my vision that I had for it when I first started it was to make more than $1 million a year. And then took me about 7 years to get there, doing the work day in, day out, day in, day out. And finally I got to where I was making $40,000 a week. And if I'd have been consistently made $40,000 a week, that'd have been 2 million a year. But yet the danger was I didn't state clearly how I wanted to get there. I just wanted to get there. So then I ended up burning myself out so bad that I hated my life. I really hated everything that came with it. I'll be damned if I didn't manifest what I was aiming for, but I hated how I got there. It was just completely unaligned with who I wanted to be, how I wanted to be in the world. So that was inevitable for that to collapse. So it's another key piece is not only do you need to vision what it is you want, you have to vision how you want to get there, and also vision who you want to be as you're getting there. These are all key pieces. So the vision has to be unbelievably clear for it to become real.
I love all the layers you brought into that. I think that's why it's such a layered experience, really, to manifest, because there's so many parts that if you might achieve the thing that you want to manifest, and if you do that without looking at how you want to show up or who you want to be or who you want to bring along, you know what I mean? Or who might be invited, not even I'm not saying you have to control the whole thing. I'm just saying allow yourself to get really clear on what it is, and then also allow yourself to be open-minded enough to dance, and explore and be playful with how it might come together. Because I think that's the other thing about manifestation. It's that you can get so locked in and hyper focused on one thing that you miss opportunities for other things. And it's like, sure, manifest the thing, prove yourself you can do it. That's just not necessarily how I tick, because I think there's so many possibilities of where it could go. But manifestation is such a great practice to give you a place to start to not only look within and really get clear on all of those layers. Who am I? What do I want? How do I want to show up? Who might I want to bring along with me who's my trusted, experts that can help me along the way to get me to that place, but also recognizing that place might look a smidgy or even a lot different, but bring me the same end result, meaning like aligned with my soul and good feels and like driving me forward in life toward a quote unquote better life, like my best life, my best and highest self life. And that is magical, like magical for realsies, not a bullshit magical manifestation practice that doesn't really take you anywhere. And I think it's that hyper focus without the other layers that can get us and even keep us stuck. It can create more loops and patterns that we get stuck in this deep rut that we've been telling ourselves is our truth without considering that we're ever evolving. We're constantly changing. And to be able to ebb and flow with what that looks like, even within a manifestation practice, is great. I love just like, I point here, but like visualizing it, like seeing it clearly and seeing it over and over again and allowing yourself to see it, but remembering that that's not a box, that it gets to be open and it might shift. You might see it and one day go, oh, this thing too, or not that, and it's really cool. But the layers that you brought in there is like so freaking deep, and so many people, I don't know, in my experience it just feels like when people talk about it they don't think about how many layers you can incorporate in and how much more like powerful that is.
So when you say vision it often, like how often do you think is necessary to really pull these things up and look at them?
I mean, I think if you're actively in the process of manifesting something that's really important to you, I think it just becomes part of your day. I mean, I think I don't think you have to like sit down. I mean, I think you can like morning practice, evening practice, pick one and then like spend some time in quiet and like see it, dream it, feel it, know it. And also, I think if that's really what you're focused on, isn't it just part of how you show up in every single day, because it's literally, it has a purpose and it's what you're doing.
Mhm. I know we hinted already at a piece of this, and that one of the ways I went wrong whenever I was working on these goals of mine was I felt like I had to have them to be okay.
The attachment piece.
The attachment piece, right? And that's such a key piece of this. Like if your well-being is predicated on making this become real, it's going to be a miserable ride. It's like you have to start from okay and continue to aim for whatever goal it is that you're aiming for.
That is the push-pull of life, isn't it? Like
Mm-hmm.
our humanness, when we start going for things that we feel really passionate about, there is a really quick tendency to attach. I'm going to glom on and cling and attach. And the trickiest piece is to surrender and to be in flow without like grabbing onto the rocks so you don't move. It's like so you can keep what you have. I just think it's such a human like thing. We do it, we attach, and it's also one of the things that keeps us the most in pain. Like, I just am like hearing my teacher in Thailand, and he's like, life is suffering, like dukkha. Attachment is suffering. It just is. And to surrender, to just understand that that's truth is an interesting thing.
As we're talking about the attachment motif over and over and over, I'm thinking about like the conversation I just had with clients last week, about long-term like strategy planning. You make a plan and you leave room for serendipity. Two different clients on two different topics. We had the same conversation, same idea of have intentionality, make the plan, execute, let go, do your part, and let go. On the do your part component, what is it that you are orienting toward? Right? Is what you're visualizing? Is it aligning with? And this is what we've hit on some of this. It's, are we aligning with our essence, with what we really, really want? When we look back on our life, are we aligning towards what we want, really, truly want? What's going to feel fulfilling and meaningful at the end, when it's all said and done? Is this what we really want? Is this part of what we want? Or is this where we sort of stumbled and looked down and saw a shiny thing and said, "Ooh, that's the shiny thing I want"? So what is it that we are visualizing and writing down and imagining? If it's $1 million, I think we've seen examples of folks who will have like specific dollar value that they manifest. Well, what does that mean? Does that what is that about? What's the true meaning behind that $1 million? Is the true meaning I'm looking to serve, and I'm looking to serve more? I'm looking to help more people. What is it that you're looking to do? Just amass wads of cash? Because that doesn't, in the universe, is that what really holds value to the person who's manifesting? Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's make whatever the goal is more real. So we start to talk about achieving goals versus actually leading a fulfilled life, right? Because a lot of times our goals can be too abstract and it doesn't get to the deeper meaning behind why we want this to become real.
Well, that's yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like
it's
my goal is to create a lot of dollars. Well, what is that? What do those dollars mean to you? Does it create more peace in your life?
that's
Are you
right.
going to have more freedom? Are you going to have the opportunity to go out and have adventures and lead a more alive life? Or are you going to finally be accepted amongst your peers and get the recognition and the respect that you've been craving for so long?
Mm-hmm. So the goals can be specific, but not aligned, not meaningful. They can be
Right.
very specific. Like, I want a green car of such maker of X year. It could be very, very specific, but may not be aligned to the deeper why. What is the layers and layers? If you keep asking yourself, well, what is it that I want? I want X. Well, what is it about that you really, really want? You go a layer deeper and you keep asking that. It's like a child that will ask, well, why? You've got to wash your hands. Why? So that they're clean. Why? Well, there's germs on your hands. Why? Well, when you eat your bread, you're going to get, I don't want you to get sick. And underneath that, I love you. I care about you. I don't want you to get sick. So wash your hands. It's a similar concept. Michelle.
Well, real quick, I mean, if you really love them, you'll want them to get sick. That way they can build up their immune system and become stronger to go resist the bullshit that happens in life. So, to overprotect them from sickness can lead to getting sick more often later on. So, getting
Yes.
sick's actually a good thing whenever you're a kid.
Yes. Yes, it is. Germs are good. And like, wash your hands before dinner. And yes.
No, go rub them in your butt crack for a little while, then eat dinner. You make a stronger person.
To be fair, so is suffering. Suffering is required for growth. So, like, we need it.
Yes.
Even when we were talking about attachment, when I think about non-attachment and how we were talking about it, I think it's really important to include non-attachment doesn't mean you're just like numbly going through life or going through life unaware. It simply means it very much requires awareness and objectivity and being an observer and having mindfulness and all of those things. It's just, and we can even hyper focus. It's just when we cling on to it, like Lee was saying, when you desire it so much that you think you can't live without it, or that you think that it is the key piece to your life being everything you wanted it to be, that's a problem. It's also a problem to have non-attachment, which is not what we're talking about, like just being and like letting the river take you wherever, but having zero impact or like choice in it. It's like you get to move and do some work and actually show up in a way that means you're an active participant. So I just think it's such a slippery slope. Like, our tendencies are to cling or control, or that fear comes in and tells us it can't possibly be true or happen, and then, but what if, right? Like, what if it could? What if you get to be an active player in the creation of whatever this is? And that's so incredibly beautiful. And I think sometimes, there's a lot of different reasons we stop ourselves, and sometimes it's just there's more layers to look at. Like, I think looking at who you are and really asking what you need is absolutely preparation for manifestation. And that in of itself will manifest you finding you. So, in some level, anything done with intention is a form, like attention, awareness, and clarity is a form of manifestation. Like, I'm like aim, awareness, intention, mindfulness, manifestation, whatever you want to use. It's like, I don't know. I think it's an amazing practice, and you don't have to call it that. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just
I
look.
feel like it's necessary to talk about the magic pill theory that we have that kind of is a blanket over our society these days, and that oh God, we're sold to so often from such a young age that we're led to believe that if we get this one thing, then it's all going to be okay. Once you get once you get that, then it's all going to be okay. And once you finally get this magic pill or the special fancy car or the house or just on and on, this is the thing that's finally going to create the life that you've been looking for. And good Lord, we've been told that so often that all we've come to believe on a deeper level that once we finally get there, then we'll be okay. once we finally get to this finish line, right, then I'll be exonerated. Exonerated is the word I love for this. It's like, I'll never have to worry again. I'll never have to work again. I'll never have to whatever again, right? Once I get to this place, finally, I'm going to be okay. And that's just it. Never, never true. If you're alive, there's going to be somewhere, some kind of growth, some kind of development, something, some kind of work to be done, always. And as soon as your focus goes on to one thing, that means your focus is not somewhere else. Like, for instance, if you're focusing on career and you're wanting to make the dollars right now, well, that probably means that your focus is going to be taken away from your health. So, by its very nature, your health is going to start to decline. And so it's like, oh, well, I got as far as I need to in the career now. Now I need to focus back on my health. So it's just like this constant fluctuations between where we're putting our focus, right? Because that's what we're talking about in manifesting is what are you focusing on?
Yeah, and that's where the hyper focused without awareness and observation of the whole picture gets dangerous.
It
know?
is. It is. I'm reminded of a client that he came to me and said, all right, I need to know what my next steps are. I need to know exactly what steps to take. I said, okay, where are we going? I don't know. Well, how do we know what steps to take if we don't know where we're going? Right? If you don't know your destination, then we can't chart our journey. We can't plan our journey. We have to know the destination first. So he thought that he needed to be focusing on career. He thought he needed to be focused on money because that's what, up until that point, that's all he had ever focused on. So I pulled out the wheel of life and we started to look at the wheel of life and it's all right, where are you actually not feeling fulfilled? And when he got to looking at it, he looked at the friends and family section of the wheel and he went, shit, that's what's missing. My career is actually doing really well. This is where I'm feeling unfulfilled. This is where I need to focus. And it was like this, holy crap, I've been going the wrong way this for months now. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see that if we focus on, once we focus somewhere, we get what we focus on.
And there's now science to reflect that it is not just in our imagination and it is not just woo-woo. It's science hadn't caught up with what has been true.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the progress of getting there. But it's absolutely true, right? Like, I mean, we may have read bits and pieces about the reticular activating system and how the brain filters information, right, to align with where our attention is going. But there's more and more research. Think like a neurosurgeon and neuroscientist it talks about. I just saw an interview recently about neuroplasticity and the idea that where we choose to focus, we're creating new neural pathways when we are creating a habit of focusing on something. And then we are creating, we're basically starting to recognize more and more of what is around us. It's almost a bias that we're creating. We're starting to notice that thing that we're now focusing on. We're all of a sudden, it's all around us, right? It's like if you leave your house looking for the color blue, you're going to see a lot more blue that day. It's going to be a lot more noticeable because you set the intention to notice it. And so now it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was pregnant, I remember walking streets of New York City, and all of a sudden, I started noticing that there are other pregnant women walking around New York City. They were invisible to me until then. And then I started noticing stores with baby clothing and strollers. I didn't realize that there were stores that sell things for babies here. And I've been here on these blocks, these city blocks that I've walked so many times. I had no idea that they were there. It's a similar idea. And down into, I mean, we talked earlier about suffering and burn. And I think that's such an important it's such an important part of growth. Can't happen in comfort. It can't happen, sitting on your comfortable couch, in your comfortable routines. And so
I mean, you can grow your gut by sitting on
that's
the
true.
couch.
That's true. You can grow into your couch, but not necessarily into your best self.
I can grow a little bit of mold and fungus.
That's right. There's things you can grow. That's not what we're looking to grow. But I just had an emergency session with a client yesterday who is going through a very difficult learning, and learnings are being delivered through like beatings, is what it feels like. But they were coming along down the road, and action wasn't taken, and now they're up in the client's face, and they need to be dealt with. And that's what our session was about at that point. It was, we're now in emergency mode, right? Because big things are going to happen the next day at 9 a.m. So now what? And it's painful, and it's seeing this client in pain. I feel for him. I do. And this is how he's going to grow, and this is how he's going to get there. And that's what we talked about as well, is this burn also creates a sense of urgency, and it can wake up the brain to take actions. So when we're in that urgent situation where we need to act right now, there could be a panic mode that we can be in, or there can be a calm, rational, I'm going to take action right now, and it's going to be the action that is right in this moment with the information that I have. Right? So it's a choice between having like a panic attack versus a surgeon in an emergency room that receives a patient that is about to bleed out and they need to take action. And they're going to make the best decisions with the information that they have at that moment to save a life. And so that is also something that we were working on, sort of bringing out that aspect of yourself where you bring your best, clearest thinking right now. But without that burn, you can't get there. You can't grow. And sometimes I think people think that because they stumbled or because they got burned, it isn't going to happen for them, whatever it is that they were hoping for, manifesting, working towards. And that may not be the lesson that's helpful for them, right? The lesson might be that they're being redirected to act differently or to act more. Something needs to be recalibrated. It's not that you're failing, and it's not that it's not going to happen for you. Maybe it won't happen the way that you envisioned it. Maybe you were holding it too tightly, that vision. You made it too specific. Maybe you need to go back and rethink, re-envision.
Yeah, the idea that it's going to be easy is absolute ludicrousness. That's it's there's never it's never always easy. Going through the hard times are a natural part of it. Golly.
I think that's a huge, what you just spoke about, Lee, is a huge part of that misconception and that toxic positivity thing. And I think that's a common misconception about manifestation, is that it's going to be easy. Manifestation is often associated with easy.
Mm.
And that isn't what we're talking about here. It's not all going to be filled with ease and joy and rainbows and unicorns.
That's that magical thinking piece that was in quotes in the definition I read earlier. Like I'm just gonna bippity boppity boop wave my magic wand, and then it's all just gonna turn out okay.
Yeah.
Nope. Got some work to do.
Lee, when you said that about the easy part, I just like had this, I don't know. I think it's fascinating because lately it's been coming up over and over and over again in my life and in friends. Like I just like, what's easy for us? Our pain, because it's known and comfortable, even though it's horrifically uncomfortable. But we know it and it's easy, and it's why we keep wanting to run back to it. And I find it happens over and over and over again. They're like, I'm just so tired. This is so hard. And then when you start doing the work, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. It's easier back there.
Mhm.
Back there, I say it like it's a regression. And I mean, it can be, right? Like, but I just think it's
Yeah.
fascinating that where we find ease is in the known, even if it's painful and frustrating. And then when we start to really dive in and do the work, we realize that it's so hard and maybe just as hard as the pain, but there's not the ease that comes with it in the moment, like in the moment where you're actively doing the work and stepping out of the muck into like the transformation, which then you do, there is like a space that happens that you do feel an ease where you're like, oh, well, there's an experience I've never had before in my life. That's a beautiful thing. How do I get more of that? But until you even get a hint of that, and even after you get a hint of that, it still feels much easier. It takes much less energy to just sit. I mean, is what we tell ourselves is to just sit in what we know.
Mhm.
And then to do that work, because when you're in it, really doing that work of the actual like healing transformation stuff, nothing about that feels easy. Nothing. There's zero things in those moments that is easy. And so we cling to that, like, I just don't want to suffer for a hot second. But then that sucks you back. And then it takes more energy to get back to that place of, oh, wait, I was here doing the work where it was really uncomfortable and there was no ease. You know what I mean? It's just, I find that all fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, the known is comfortable because we've already been there. It's the uncertainty that we're absolutely terrified of. That's where the dis-ease comes from because we have zero certainty that what we are doing is going to lead where we think it might. And it's
And
that
that's
uncertainty that terrifies us.
Mm. And
and
this
that's
is
where go ahead.
this is where science is catching up. Is that we
Mhm.
are wired for what's familiar because what's familiar feels safe. Not that it's actually good for us or productive or going to help us level up. It's almost the opposite. It's
Mhm.
stay here, don't change. It's safe. Like sit in your shit because it's familiar shit.
Mhm.
Do nothing else, and that's where the neuroplasticity studies, new findings that are so fascinating to me. It's exactly what we're talking about. It's doing the same thing has been comfortable. How many times we need to repeat a new habit for it to become comfortable? It's not comfortable to do that because we're building new neural pathways. We're going against our wiring. That's hard. Feels icky.
Yeah, it's like being stuck in a bad relationship that everybody around you can see that it's terrible except for you 'cause you're just too close to it. Or being stuck in a job that you hate, but you refuse to quit it because, oh my God, I don't know if there's anything else out there for me. I don't, I don't know that another job would be any better than this. I know this job. This is the familiar evil. Well, I mean, what if it's actually worse if I quit?
Mm. Mhm. The devil that you know. Michelle, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I don't know if it flows in the same way, but I just think that's why it's so important to know who you are and to really be connected with your highest self. And I think it's why when you build self-trust and really know that you can trust yourself to navigate whatever, and I don't mean alone, I just mean trust yourself to figure it out with your resources and people in your life, that changes everything because everything becomes less scary when you actually trust yourself. When you're living in victimhood or the I can't or learned helplessness or any of those places, or even just in the suffering, but feeling like you have to stay there, that is a very different thing than knowing without a doubt that you will find a way and that you have the resources and you might not have all the skills, but you can find someone who does, and knowing that changes everything. Everything.
Love it.
Anything else y'all want to say before we go to the three? Anything else y'all want to
That was
say
amazing.
before we go to the three? I'm on a large amount of allergy medication right now. It's fucking insane. I can make an elephant drowsy.
Hmm.
I think we're good.
Cool. All right.
I suppose I'll kick it off as that is the order that we go in.
Normally, unless you want to shake things up a little bit today.
Let's just do it.
Do it. I dare you.
Manifestation. So, number one starts with I am. So, who are you? What do you want in this life? When we think about manifestation of a specific thing, where is the conviction? For the conviction to be there, we need to understand who it is that we are, what it is that we want, and to really be connected to that. And so, something that I found really helpful is to start the day with I am statements. Who are you? Who are you showing up as in life today to get closer to what you want? So, a sentence that starts with I am. I am kind. I am courageous. I am loving. I am adventurous. Shifting our identity to align with what it is that we want and reaffirming that identity. Number two is sweat equity. So manifestation is bullshit if you just write down a wish and put a piece of paper under your pillow and expect to wake up the next day like a tooth fairy, and it's there the next morning. Sweat equity is included. So the universe will meet you once you are taking action over and over and over that is aligned with number one of who you are. I am. And number three is burn is included. It is not going to be easy to manifest what it is that you want. It isn't a pretty mantra and a candle that's burned. It is work, and it is sometimes inclusive of disappointment, of missteps, of pain. And it's too often folks get discouraged and take away the message that it isn't going to happen, that it's not for them, and it's a no when they have a rejection. And they take it as a rejection, door closed. The invitation here is to take that rejection or misstep as a redirection instead, and to recalibrate again. What can I do differently? What is it that I'm aligning to? And a gut check with yourself, sense check. Am I aligning to the thing that I want? And recalibrating. There's so much more to say about it. If I had a bonus item here, it would be don't attach too hard to how it's going to look. Attach more to the quality and to the what than specifically to the how. Yes, have a plan. Yes, have the steps. And yes, execute the steps. Do your part and let go.
Okay, three. It's hard because I just did a healing weekend on this and I just launched a course on this and I want to give new information. So I'm going to try to drop into something new. So I'm listening. I think first and foremost, this isn't new, but radical self-compassion, simply because when we start to really look, which manifestation requires, we have a tendency to see some things about ourselves that we don't necessarily super love seeing, and then we can get really hard on ourselves. So recognize that we're human, we're messy. Radical self-compassion as you do this work is really important. That's one. Two, pause. Sometimes we get so locked in on what we're focusing on, we forget to consider what it is like inside what that really needs. So pause and ask yourself, what do you really need? And is this actually in alignment with your higher self and like your soul and your purpose? Or do you maybe need a pause to get a little more clear on it, right? To just bring it into fruition, make sure that what you're actually going for is aligned. And then 3, don't forget I think sometimes we say manifestation, it's like, I'm doing this. Yes, you're the only one who can. And do not forget your external resources. The internal process and internal part is a huge, like the most important piece. You have to have that. And also, just because you're the one manifesting doesn't mean you don't get to use your external resources to bring that in. They can help you find your obstacles. They can help you find what's in the way. Sometimes we can't get there ourselves, and we need an external to help us see that. So obstacles and resources, internal, external, those are important pieces.
Breathe.
Mhm.
All right. See if I can power through this. Manifestation. It's funny how I started off like, oh, here we go. This is going to be all about y'all. And I started to do some research and started thinking, holy crap, I've been doing this all along. Number one is create the vision and make it unbelievably clear. Not just what you want, but how you're going to get there, who you want to be on the path to getting there, and also get clear on what you're not willing to tolerate on that path as well. One of the ways that I screwed up tremendously was whenever I decided to start that mechanic shop and make it to the $1 million a year, and then eventually to the $2 million a year. I did not set the guardrails up that I also wanted to be present for my family, and I was unable. That business took everything I had from me. I managed to manifest exactly what I wanted, all that money, but it took away also something that I wasn't willing to give away to get there. I wasn't present. Like my middle daughter, I missed the first year of her life. And that still to this day is one of the very few regrets that I have. Uh, I don't regret much because I look at many things as just learning opportunities, but that's one of the things that I really do truly regret is not being there for the first year of her life because I was so wrapped up in creating that business because I thought that this is kind of wrapping and starting off on point two is I thought my well-being was predicated on getting there. I wasn't going to be okay until I got there. So that's point number 2 is don't let your well-being be determined by getting there. You have to start from a place of well-being. Start from a place of I'm okay, that I'm good. And then only from that place can we become successful. Can we start to bring into fruition what we really are aiming for? Because whenever I did get there, my well-being was worse for getting there, not better. So that was a rough spot for me to be in. That's what fed the burnout. That's what fed me almost killing myself by working myself to death because my well-being was predicated on getting there, and I got there, and then I ended just like this huge existential crisis. Oh, I got here, and I'm still not happy. Fuck. Now what? That was painful for me for a long time to get everything that I wanted, everything I had dreamed of, and to realize that I wasn't any better off than I was before. So our well-being cannot be determined by getting what we want. And the last thing, it's good to want more than what we have. It's good to aim for something. Because if we don't have anything to aim for, what do we have to live for? So number 3 is write it down. Write down what we want. Because then that starts to make it real. Alina, you mentioned um, the I call it the priming, but the reticular activating system, right? Um, I think of it like we prime the pump. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with old school pumps, but you can shake the handle and nothing would happen unless you put a little bit of water in the pot to start with. And that would prime the pump. Then when you would start shaking the handle, it would create that suction to pull the water up out of the well, and then the pump would start working. So that's that priming the reticulating activating system. And that's kind of like whenever, say, you buy a green Honda, all of a sudden you're going to notice green Hondas all over the road. They'll be everywhere. Whenever just the day before you didn't see them. So we prime our brain to see what we train it to see. And whenever we write these things down, we prime ourselves to see the things that will get us to where we want to go. Where before those opportunities were blind to us because we weren't primed to it. So once we write it down, that's the way we start to prime our brain to look for those opportunities that will create that serendipity to bring what it is that we want into our life. So prime that pump, write it down. I was absolutely amazed whenever I realized that every time I've ever written down what it is I was aiming for and then just hit it, I didn't even have to look at it again. I only had to write it down once, set it aside, and I'd come back to it 2, 5, 7 years later and look at that sheet of paper and go, holy crap, I did it. How the hell did that happen? And that's some of the magic around manifestation. Really just goal setting. It's a fancy word for set goals and go make them happen. All right, I am complete.
Yay! We did it.
Zippity doo dah, zippity day. My oh my, what a wonderful day.
Good.
Good?
Good is good. It's very goodly. That's it. You understand me, yes?
Yeah. Well, which part was good?
What you said and the singing.
Oh, the singing too?
Both. Tua Taftuli is very good.
I've been practicing the singing quite a bit lately. I'm so looking forward to sharing my newest song with everybody. It's not fully complete. It's about 90% at the point at this moment, but
Ooh. Ooh.
it's
Yes.
I wrote it after. It's based on that leadership retreat that just came back from a few weeks ago. It's all about. Oh, I'll share the first set of lyrics with you. So I tried so hard to be better, but all I am is all. God damn, I'm having a hard time with this today. Like my tongue is made out of lead. Let me try again. Tried so hard to be better, but all I am is all I'll ever be. And all I'll be is all I am. And that's better than what I tried to become. I see big smiles. I did a good thing.
I look forward to hearing the song.
Me too.
Very much so.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, might you want to share anything about your wonderful Udemy class?
It's so funny how it came to be. I knew I was going to do another class and I just didn't know when, didn't really have the gumption. And then I did that weekend where I created a whole slideshow and then we never used the slideshow. We did a manifesting weekend. We did, but we were manifesting healing and our authentic selves, not like that was the specific thing. You know what I mean? So then I had this whole created like deck where I was like, oh, this is it. This is the class that's supposed to happen. And I created a whole acronym, claim it, for manifesting. And it's the art of manifestation, align with your true self or aligning with your true self. And so it's not like your typical manifestation course in that it looks at all the things we talked about today, right? It's not just, manifest a blue feather or a red cardinal or a green Honda. It's more like let's look at what needs to happen first, because here's the super secret about manifestation. That is, when you're vibing in alignment with and like showing up authentically with who you really are, it's easier. It just comes to you. I'm not saying you don't have to do the work, but I'm just saying, when you're like in a vibe and in a flow, you ever had those times in life where you're just like, God, everything's so much easier than it ever has been before? Yeah, because you're aligned with your fucking soul. That's why. It's so good. Like, so it was such a fun weekend, but it was very clear to me that I was not supposed to, flash through some slides to give people visuals. It was like, no, we're deep diving in this room. That's a distraction. And then I was like, and also this is a great supplement to said weekend, and also a great just place for people to start and dig in. So I'm excited.
Can you tell everyone once again the name of the course on Udemy if they wanted to find it and take it?
Yeah, The Art of Manifestation, Aligning with Your True Self. I got a workbook in there so you can write shit down.
And we know, because it's scientifically proven, that writing it down makes it more real and more statistically likely for you to actually achieve it.
Yeah. So I hope it's helpful. I mean, I'm getting feedback that it is so far, so that's good.
I like this excited version of you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the fact that I can get there today is a pretty cool thing. So thanks for the time together. It's a day. That's why I say that. It's been an interesting morning already. And that's all I can say.
I am grateful for the time. I love how you perked up. I love it. Smile and chatty, and the speed, the whole cadence just
I love what I do.
Because it's very clear, very, very clear watching you talk about it, that you are fully aligned and fully believe and know and are already and have already been helping people to do this. So it is very clear that there's authenticity through and through. Right. And by the way, I see charisma. So I'm just going to.
Oh, no, don't say that word to me.
I see it in a positive way. Ew.
That's not a compliment. I mean, you can say it, but it is not a compliment to this human.
I see that it's authentic.
Thank you.
Clearly. It's beaming.
Yeah. It's so much better than, I've got this new course.
I wouldn't do it. That's just it, though. No. I can't do that.
If you buy my course, let me tell you how much better your life is going to be.
I think you hear what is it? The Minnesota Nice, a company that I worked for had a company name Nice. It doesn't sound explicitly like, if you buy this course, but it could sound like, if you buy this course, it's going to be great.
Well, if you buy this course, you might increase some pain points, but you also will work your way out of them if you keep going. Not a promise, just saying it's a possibility.
It's up to the person taking it to make it happen.
Yeah.
I think this was lovely time spent. Sorry, Lee, we're going to say something.
Well, I mean, if you spend it with me, it's time well spent. That's a given.
It's a given.
All right, then. Much love to yous.
Much love.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to That's a Great Point with Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart. To find out more about how we can serve you, check out our links in the show description. Thanks for playing along.